everybody. Welcome back to Just Around the Corner. Today, I have with me Amy Nizza. She is one of the therapists at the Joshua Center. She is located at both the Fayetteville and Rogers sites, which go Amy. She's rocking it. Um, but yeah, so Amy, we're just really excited to have you on here today and to get to know you more and what you're doing and how people in the community can get connected.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me on. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I know. It's always fun, like getting to engage with my friends and people I know and don't know in the health and wellness community, like in
hmm
this context too, because I feel like I always learn something that, like, even though you and I see each other semi regularly, it's like I'm probably
Right.
going to learn something new about you and your practice, which is always super fun and
Yes.
encouraging.
Yes. Maybe I'll learn something new about my practice too. Maybe.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Well, um, would love
Oh,
to start off by just hearing more about, like, how did you get into counseling and where you're currently located?
yeah, that's a great question. So I was thinking about this question, and like my path to counseling was a little bit untraditional. So and I would say untraditional, it took me 6 years to graduate school, and I transferred 3 times within different programs. And because counseling wasn't really on my mind, in my early 20s. And I remember one day someone was like, "You think you make a great counselor?" I was like, "Oh, great, never thought about that." And so I went to graduate school, which is not a good reason to go to graduate school for counseling, just because someone's like, "You'd be a great counselor." And there's some of my own just personal wounds and a difficult season that led me to, like, I dropped out of counseling in grad school. That first semester, I was not emotionally ready for it or like relationally ready for that. And so really for several years of like I was trying to find like, who's Amy? What are my desires? What are my different callings? What makes me me? Because a lot of my life I just lived out of what are the people asking of me? What do they desire of me? I'm trying to perform for that. So within that, I started going to my own counselor and got involved in some other like faith community, basically like group gatherings that were focused more on like emotions and healing, and counseling was so healing for me to have that space, and that's where I had a thought of, wait, maybe I would also want to do this for others. And so then eventually found myself back at grad school, and was working full time and doing grad school part time, and yeah, I think gradually over time, I was like, I think I do enjoy this. And I'm good as I can see different aspects of my personality or even my story could benefit others. And that's kind of ultimately how I got into counseling. And long story short, but then how I got to the Joshua Center. So I did my internship at the Joshua Center, and at the one in Fayetteville for graduate school. And I asked if I could stay on, part-time, and then eventually that came to full-time. So that's probably not the most exciting story, but
Real
but
one. That's what matters.
yes, but it's a real yes. Yeah, but the Joshua Center for me, just fits me really well. So it has the like a group practice feel. Like there's lots of other counselors there, at the Fable and Rogers location that I really connect well with. But we're also giving the freedom to practice as like we're in private practice. So I have my own like choices and autonomy there. But then yet we have like the support of the group practice, and it is for me just lovely. It's a great setup for like my season and for me to learn and to grow as a counselor. Yeah.
That's so great. And I love just in hearing you talk about your journey of becoming a counselor that, at first you started graduate school because you had heard somebody else kind of speak that into you. And then it wasn't until you had actually had a personal experience in your own healing journey that you
Mhm.
were able to actually, like, congruently pursue, it sounds like, a counseling career, which I think is so true of so many people. And
Mhm.
I think just speaks to, like, the need as counselors for us to have our own counseling experiences,
Yes.
because we're human and we all have
Yeah.
trauma and, like,
Surprise. Surprise for
but also
Mhm.
we need to know what we're asking people to commit to.
Mhm.
So I love that that's part of your story, and
Yes.
that like just adds a layer of empathy and understanding for what clients experience. Like, yeah, I know what this is like. And
Yes.
because I had to go on my own journey.
Yes, I agree. I'm really thankful that I had the experience of being on the other side
Mm.
of the chair and being on the other side of the room. I still have my own personal counselor that I go to now. And yeah, it's just so helpful for me to know. Yeah, when I walked into the waiting room to be my counselor for the first time, I was scared. Like, who is this person? I'm supposed to like share with them. I know what it's like to be in the position of, wait, I was coming in wanting to talk about this. How did we get here?
Yeah.
Where, where did this come from? And it's like, okay, oh, you're right. It all does make sense, but it's a journey and it's not linear. And so I think that helps me in my own maybe feelings as a counselor sometimes when I want to get it right for my clients and I want it to be linear and maybe a little bit easier. I'm like, oh yeah, remember my story? Like that's actually not what I needed. And that actually wasn't true to my story. So just to kind of add on to what you were saying, it's kind of
I love that.
yeah.
And I think that you're continuing to pursue that nonlinear but supportive system of healing and
Mhm,
growth, even in just you being at the Joshua Center and having a built-in
mhm,
system of accountability, of support, of network, and
mhm,
kind of a little bit of an aside tangent on just an encouragement for everyone who pursues counseling and as a client, but also as a professional. You never make it. Like, there's never a point to where you're like, okay, I'm
exactly.
done. I don't ever have to come back. Like,
Yeah,
um,
like, I'm good.
I know that I can speak for me and like, I'm a counselor. I've been a counselor for several years and I still go to counseling. And that
Mhm,
that's like so needed, and that this is a continuous journey and a nonlinear one like you spoke to. And so yeah, I think that it's just really good to hear you talk about your journey and how that can be an encouragement to people who maybe feel like they
mhm,
either have to have it all together to pursue a degree in counseling, or that their journey, if it doesn't look linear, like A plus B equals C, that they're on the wrong track. And um,
exactly. Yeah, I think you said that perfectly.
thanks.
Mhm,
Um, so, with you being a counselor, um, tell us a little bit more about what it looks like for you, like when you're sitting across from a client. How would you describe to them what counseling is?
mm. Yes, that's a really good question as well. So, to be honest, I kind of have stolen my little spiel from somebody else when I was an internship, but and not because I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't know what to say, but it actually fits me really well. So, what I'm sitting across, from a client, what I tell them is, I believe we're all made for connection, particularly like with ourselves and with others, and we're really created that way. Like we're born with this innate desire to connect and that it feels safe to connect. But then like, along the way, there are disconnections that happen, whether that be, things that are done to us or things that weren't done for us that we needed, or eventually maybe things that we maybe chose or weren't able to choose for ourselves. And those disconnections are really painful, and those disconnections can have ripple effects in our lives internally, in our relationships. And so truly, I think counseling for me, I know that's pretty vague, like, 30,000-foot view, but is a place we can look at those disconnections. That, hey, where those disconnections come from? How are they impacting you? How can we repair them and reconnect them as best we can right now? And so that's really what I think counseling is, a space to look at our stories, name the disconnections, maybe reintegrate our story, and maybe even rewrite our story.
Yeah,
So
that's
that's what I would say.
yeah, I think essentially what I'm hearing you say is that both healing and harm happen in the context of relationship.
Yes.
And the hope of therapy is to create an environment and an experience where there can be healing, connection, and repair to not only the relationships that we have to others, but to ourselves and the divine.
Yes, exactly. Like I always want my therapy office to be a space where people can, come and explore yeah, the harm that was done to them, but also find healing, like, in that space too, and to slow down to do that. I mean, I'm sure that yeah, I see it in your face, you're, like, nodding. That most, my clients are coming in hot, just like I am when I'm going to counseling. They're coming from work, or they're coming in and they, for good reason, want healing to be done fast, because when we're in pain, we want it to be gone as quickly as possible. It's just how we're wired, and so I think counseling, at least for me, my viewpoint, like, hey, let's slow down. We have to slow down to name the connections and see the disconnections and then repair it. It's not always fast work, but it's really worthy work. And I'm actually stealing this from you. You said this to me in a voice message once, to be honest. And it's so good that, like, things that are important are worthy of time and attention.
Mm.
Uh, but I tell it to my clients.
Wow.
Yeah. So well
I
done.
feel really honored that you remember that because I don't remember saying that. But I'm glad that it has been an encouragement and a helpful span of words. And also, I love that I at my own sentence. I really
It's
enjoyed it too.
good. It's
Yeah.
so good. Yeah.
And I want to like elaborate a little bit more on like slow because I think that that term can sometimes be confusing or feel really mystical.
Mhm,
It's like,
mhm.
what does that even mean? Like, it's almost like saying, when are we gonna have dinner? Soon. Like, it's like
Right. Right.
that. And yeah, do you think you could tell us a little bit more about like when you say, let's go slow, let's slow this down, like what does that look like?
Yeah. So I think it can look like many different ways.
Mm.
Just for instance, one of my clients, she often comes in with that really high energy. She's really busy, her life is really full. And for us to slow down, for us at the beginning of session, let's say, hey, let's do a grounding exercise. Let's just breathe in slowly, in and out. Feel your feet on the floor. Just where's your body at? Just as you're entering into session today. So I know that's a really practical example, but it could look as simple as that. Is, hey, let's slow and just name where your body's at. And so that's one example, but then there's maybe other clients that they want to go to their pain or to their kind of presenting problem really, really quickly. And I was like, hey, we might have to slow down and look at, hey, where did that come from? Where
Mm.
did you originally first feel that pain of shame? Or when did you first receive this message that, oh, I'm not good enough, unless I perform? So I think so that could be looking like, I'm going to do a timeline with somebody. Hey, let's just kind of walk through your life. And let's see like these pain points and maybe some joyous points too, just to make sense of where you're at today. So that can be slowing. But I think mostly for me, it looks like working with the body. Like, hey, let's slow down. Let's listen to your body. Hey, your body's revving up. You're starting to feel that chest tighten. Hey, it's worthy to listen to.
Yeah.
Let's slow down and say, hey, what is that chest tightening saying right now? Even that I would say is a slowing down. I don't know
Yeah,
if that quite answers your
absolutely.
question, but those are
Yeah,
some
that's
of
great. I think
yeah.
that you spoke to that well and just addressing like slowing down means taking time to start listening to the thoughts, feelings, and sensations that our bodies are giving us in
Mhm.
probably ways that we don't normally give time or space for, or maybe don't even know how because that's never been an
Right.
option.
Right. Yes.
And the image that like came to my mind as you were talking about this was like the difference between like maybe just getting a medication versus somebody going into surgery. Like when you were going
Mm,
into surgery, we are opening everything up
yes.
and it's meticulous. It takes time and it's something that is very important and deep and vulnerable and
Mhm.
so necessary and good and leads to long-term benefits as opposed to maybe just addressing a surface level symptom. And so that's
Yes.
just kind of what I was thinking as you were talking about that.
Yes. That is the best analogy. I don't know if anybody could have said that better.
Thank you.
Mhm.
You're really flattering me today, Amy. I'm
Oh,
really flattered.
I just ate it.
Oh my gosh. Um, so tell us a little bit more about if somebody were interested in coming to you for therapy, like
Mhm.
what are your focus areas? What are the types of um like clients that you work really well with?
Mhm. So when I look at my caseload, I see a wide variety, and so I also think maybe a strength of mine is like I just have bandwidth for a wide variety of experiences and people, and so I do see 18 and above right now, and but I see men, women, couples, premarital, but I'd say predominantly though it's a lot of trauma and complex trauma, grief and complex grief, and then depression, anxiety as well. So I mean, it's hard for me to say like, man, here's my like one, like here's my like, maybe one specific area because I think whatever's brought to me, I'm like, okay, like I feel like I have tools for this. I'm gonna interact with you in a way that's best for you and best where your story is at. But I'm also don't want to be just like super vague too. And specifically, I have some passion points around sexuality. That's what people's like sexual stories and people's pain and wounds in that as well. And maybe that's coming from my own story as well, but I have a particular tenderness, I think, for those who are coming to me with some of those experiences. And I think just trauma as well. I think that is in the making sense of trauma, organizing it, getting to, hey, what was it that you needed in that, and even helping people understand their body's responses to trauma, I would say is a maybe an area that I enjoy being in. And, which is kind of a hard thing to say. Like I enjoy being in people's like trauma. but
Yeah.
but yeah, I think that's what probably start gravitating towards like EMDR. So lots of different modalities that I try to use depending upon what kind of fits the client best in that.
That's great. And yeah, you don't have to have like these super specific things that you do. I think
Yeah.
you're able
Mm.
to provide a wide net. And I think a lot of that is based on the way that you see people,
Yes. Hmm.
which provides a lot of breadth for you to really reach people, understand them, and work well with them,
Hmm.
which is amazing. And I love that you're working with individuals and couples. I mean, those are couple work is always a big need. And so it's always
Yes.
good to be able to say, okay, I know somebody who I can refer to. And
Yeah.
um, yeah,
Hmm.
trauma also, like, it is something that you can be specialized in, but it's also like everybody has trauma. And so,
Yes.
like,
Yes.
I can see and make sense of why things feel really vague,
Mhm.
because these are things that, in some ways, like we all can face, and
Yes.
so that makes sense. And
Yeah.
I love what you said about weird about like loving to work with trauma. I feel like sometimes as a counselor, like when we talk about what we do, it's like I just get so excited when somebody comes in and they're in crisis, and it's like
Yeah.
it's a little sadistic, but it's
Right. Because they're like,
definitely
I
something
wish you didn't have that part of your story to have to come in and talk about this. But like, I'm here with you.
yes. Yeah. Yeah. What's exciting is not that you're in crisis. It's
Yeah.
that I feel like I can come alive and meet you in that space in a way that's actually going to
Yes.
be healing. And that's what's exciting.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely. Yeah. And and I feel like maybe a question that maybe you get this a lot as a therapist, they're like, "Well, what theory do you practice?"
mm,
When it said that. And maybe that helps shed some light on kind of where I'm coming from. So
yeah.
I don't know if it's even necessarily like theory, but like I'm attachment focused. So like very attachment trained, the connections to our early caregivers, our current relationships, how that impacts us, like trauma informed and trained, but that I'm somatically inclined. Like I love to work with the body. I think our body is an integral part of our stories and needs to be part of the therapeutic process. So all three of those, no matter what is this maybe a client's coming in with, I'm gonna be looking through those lenses, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
I think that makes so much sense and a great clarification. And I think that one could argue is your specialty is being able to really like to see and help people become more attuned to their bodies and to their ways of attaching and detaching, um,
Mhm. Mhm.
which is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, are there any other things that you're doing in the community or ways that people can get connected to you outside of just a normal, like client therapist type relationship?
So I would say maybe look forward to some group classes in the future. Again, maybe look at the Joshua Center for that, or
Nice.
be able to look out from social media. So that's kind of in the pipeline a bit. But currently, like another way to maybe get connected, I've like maybe people reach out to me to do some sort of training or speaking, whether that be at schools or that be at like at churches. That's another way I'm kind of involved in the communities through maybe psych education, something I'm really passionate about and I enjoy doing. So that could be in a small group format, large group format. But those are other ways I'm engaged in the community, and people are welcome to reach out to me about that if they're intrigued by what I'm saying and would connect with me and feel like I could be a benefit to whoever they'd want to, yeah, bring me in to talk to. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, and what would be some of those avenues if somebody wanted to reach out?
Mhm.
How could they contact you?
Yeah. So I would just email me directly at Amy in at thejoshuacenter.com. All lowercase AMYN at thejoshuacenter.com. It's the easiest way to contact me. Typically, I'm pretty good at responding back to email.
Perfect. Well, there you go.
Yes.
Um, well, thanks so much, Amy. This has been so
Ah,
getting to just hear more about you and your practice as a counselor. And I can confirm I did learn something new about you today.
great.
So fun.
It
So
was a win.
looking forward to different people that are going to get connected with you, as well as different opportunities and ways that you're serving the community, and how
Yeah.
we'll get to be a witness to that. So thanks so much for being on here today.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.